When you go on Bookie's social media, it feels like there are a million and one opinions about reviews, what should be in them, what the stars mean, who should be reviewing, where should you be reviewing, what should you say in a review, negative reviews, positive reviews. It's literally endless. So, at least in my algorithm, most of those topics have a prevailing opinion. Interestingly, however, I saw kind of a complete 180 happen on my feed, but I don't actually think that's what it was. It's two conflicting opinions, but I feel like they're coming from the same side. Let's talk about it. My name is Taylor Rose, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything reading and writing. I am going to be blocking the names in today's episode of Taylor Rose Reads because while, I'm going to come right off the bat, I definitely don't agree with one side. I don't want it to seem like I'm calling anybody out for having what is maybe kind of an innocuous opinion. So this post was from maybe like 4 months ago. And right, so we have here an author who said, I had to block an author today. She gave a 2-star to one of my inner circle on Goodreads. I don't play that game. If she wants to be an author with a reputation of reviewing her colleagues poorly, she doesn't need access to me. And the top response was from this user who said, bullying people who give honest reviews is 100% the way to surround yourself with yes men and never know the true value of what you created. Can't really trust reviews nowadays, not when people care more about the author's feelings than about the writing. If you didn't guess from the like, I agreed with this person. I feel like this kind of behavior is overall really damaging, I don't know. You only give good reviews. I am not going to believe anything you say. Because to me personally, it signals that you aren't actually thinking critically about what you're reading or even paying attention, probably. Like you couldn't think of one thing that, oh, maybe this could have been different. Even books that are 5-star reads for me, they're very rarely, there isn't anything I think could have played out a little differently. And that's just because we're all human. We all have preferences, like I don't think it's possible for you to match up 100% with anybody else. And OP did respond, I have 0 issues with readers who give negative reviews. I encourage readers to give negative reviews. I don't really care when readers tag me in reviews either, though I don't encourage it because I know many authors don't like it. But readers don't get access to my professional networks, and I don't collaborate professionally with readers, and readers don't expect me to. It's not bullying to refuse to treat someone as a professional colleague who doesn't act professionally. And I feel like they're making a lot of assumptions here. You can be negative and be professional. It crosses the line when you are lying, when you are being abusive, or you are being not relevant in your comments. And I will fully admit, I did screenshot this conversation because it was the first time I saw comments not agreeing with OP. The majority of the time I see posts like this talking about how authors shouldn't review books, all the comments are agreeing, saying, yeah, you're just a hater, blah, 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 on and on. So I screenshotted this whole thread in shock that like, oh my God, people are... I agree with people. We have this second user who said, being an author doesn't automatically make a reader review everything above 3 stars. I take honesty over trying to fit into the community. And yeah, I don't think you are uplifting people. I don't think you are helping people if you are lying about a product. And the OP came back and said, okay, that's your choice. Actions still come with consequences. And she clearly doesn't want to be part of my community or have access to my networks. I don't owe someone my presence, period. Which, yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know. With this attitude, I kind of feel like good riddance. They're probably better off without you. And the second commenter came back and said, just so we're clear, the action here is honesty. And she clearly doesn't want to be part of your community because she read a book that felt like 2 stars to her. You don't owe someone your presence valid, but she owes every author in your inner circle 3 stars and above, regardless what she thought of a book. This sure is saying something about your and your inner circle's book reviews. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know. And the OP did respond, the action here is that if someone wants to interact with me in a professional context, they need to behave like a professional. I do not care what readers rate my books, but I don't give readers access to my professional networks or collaborate with readers, blah, blah, blah. Repeating the same comment from earlier. And I'm going to be honest, I don't understand this hang up on being professional. if I hire 2 plumbers, plumber A gives me a plan to fix my broken bathroom, plumber B gives me a plan to fix my broken bathroom. If I ask plumber B, what do you think about plan A? Plumber B better give me an honest answer. That plan's okay, but, my plan will save you money, or my plan might be more expensive, but consider these other things that might arise in the future if you go with plan A, and vice versa. Plumber A better have good reason, good explanation for why he's arguing for his plan over plumber B. And in that situation, that would not be unprofessional of them. I hope to God that there's not some sort of like secret underground plumber organization where they agree not to accurately inform their customers because bros before hoes. Like, do you know what I mean? And like, yeah, this is different. You are directly hiring a plumber to perform a service for you. Authors are not performing a service for readers in that same sense. Readers aren't commissioning works. I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, but like that's not how the majority of books come about. So it's like the plumber is more invested in making sure you're happy because they're getting money directly from you versus an author is getting money from a wide audience for a singular product versus this plumber. The only way he's getting money from his product is if he performs for me at a certain time, and I agree to the service. And a third person came in and said, so basically you're saying that an author cannot be honest and professional at the same time because the professional thing to do is silencing your opinion about a book you didn't like just because you're an author? I mean, I know this is usually the non-spoken rule, but it's kind of an embarrassing rule, and it's even more embarrassing to admit out loud that the rule exists. And OP came back and said, chefs don't go around one-starring other local restaurants on Yelp. I hope they are if they go to that other restaurant and they have a bad experience. That's totally valid. That's totally valid. They spent money on food at another restaurant. They're allowed to leave a review saying, my burger was burnt, the fries were still cold inside, and there was no seasoning. Like, if you know what I mean? Like those are things that everyone would complain about. It would be another thing if they came in and were purposefully being abusive to try and lower that other restaurant's ratings. Do you know what I mean? And making stuff up to make the other restaurant look bad. Like we can all agree that would be unprofessional, but I don't think a chef going into another restaurant and talking about their experience at their restaurant is unprofessional. A fourth person came in and said, do what you want, but professionals give each other negative feedback in public spaces all the time. You don't have to be connected to people who do that if you don't want, but it's not a widely accepted standard of professionalism. And yes, thank you, fourth person I screenshotted. And keep in mind, like these were the only comments arguing with OP. I think like 80% of the other comments were like, yeah, you go girl. Like, I don't know why we're celebrating lying, but. And then this person that OP liked, I'd just be giving out 5 stars. LOL, good characters, gold star. There was tension, gold star. There was a dragon, gold star. And I'm like, this is why I can't even trust 5-star reviews. Really. I mean, I'll give them and give reasons why I did, but people say, oh, that was a 5-star read, and then they can't really articulate anything. Like, oh, my heart raced once. Like, yeah, bad books can do that too. What else was good about it? There can't just be one good thing. And then this 6th person came out and said, I was once told you can be an author or a reviewer, but not both, because people in the industry will hold grudges if you leave a negative review. So I mostly don't review at all unless I can give 5 stars. I think that approach hurts authors, but the fallout isn't worth it. Which, is this true? I don't know. It seems weird because like who's holding the grudge? You're telling me Penguin Ransom House is holding a grudge against an author who didn't like one of the hundreds of books they publish annually? Or like the agent? I don't know. Like, I guess that it's a small industry, but I find it hard to believe that you giving a respectful, not 5-star review is going to make everyone ever involved in the publishing industry so angry. Anyways, the point being, I only screenshotted the people who finally agreed with me because I'm so surprised seeing people agree with me. But like, I personally don't think it's an issue. And maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite when I say that because, or maybe not. There was a post recently about blurbs. Like, do blurbs from other authors actually help out? And it was like, I mean, I'm disappointed when I find Like if I like author A and they blurb author B's book and then I read author B's book and it's bad, like that's, I don't know, that's really disappointing. And then it makes me question author A, like, how was your book so good? And then you're here praising this one that was like demonstrably bad for XYZ reason. And it's different if it's like, oh, author B just, that their book just wasn't really something I'm into. If there's like, it's more if there's something in the book that just like super turned me off, I thought was like a really bad choice. But to clarify, that doesn't mean I think authors should not leave blurbs or anything for, right? They are more than able to do that. I think they should be free to express whatever opinion they have, again, as long as it is respectful and relevant. I think what interests me most is that most of these people are indie authors who post things like this, talking about how like you can't disrespect your colleagues. And it's like, I feel like that only applies to trad authors working for under the same trad publisher. And yeah, people change publishers and stuff, but I just feel like, especially when you're indie, like you don't owe loyalty to anybody. Like, do all sticker makers owe some sort of weird sticker loyalty? Like, because, and having not published a book, maybe my perception is very off, but it definitely seems like your mileage may vary. Some people do invest a lot into their indie publishing career by getting artists and 50 different types of editors and all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, theoretically, that is a large network of people you could be pissing off by not, by giving that negative review. But then again, it's like on the internet, there are so many book editors, there are so many cover artists, your options are endless. And like when it boils down to it, as people are constantly preaching, you technically don't need any of that. You could make your own cover and you could edit your book yourself and you get vellum for formatting and then you upload your document to Amazon, pay for ads on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And that's it. Like it's just you against the world. And there are so many authors who, when you go on Threads, they're talking about their success story where I spent $50 on this pre-made cover and $200 on ads, and now I'm making 5 figures a month for my book because it just blew up and I'm just so naturally blessed. I just don't see the connection. Like, yeah, you could be going to events and wanting to talk at panels and stuff, but like all of that is extraneous to the baseline of I wrote my book, I got an EPUB version made, and now I'm putting it on the internet for money. Just imagine my Threads feed filled with posts being completely opposite of those screenshots, because that's what I see 99% of the time. The opposite of the comments I liked. So color me surprised when I saw this post. Fastest DNR ever, possibly a new record on Threads. Gatekeeping is not a good look. Being a jerk to everyone in your comments, even less so. Big time publisher with 3 years of experience telling all authors what they should and shouldn't be doing with their time and acting like they're inherently superior and better than everyone who tries to tell them that their take is a bad one. And so I saw this post and I was like, oh, I wonder what person here said. Curious. Must have been spicy. So I go over to their feed and obviously they blocked this person. When I went to this author's feed, they had deleted the post in question, but they did have this kind of response. I don't even know what to say because I got so much hate and no one read my thread, but here's the truth in one post. I'd advise actively publishing authors not to blind apply for ARCs. Want to hype an author's book? Reach out to them and offer to newsletter swap or host a giveaway. This will allow you to network and help the both of you. If you want a book, freaking pay for it. It's available to buy. Cold requesting on NetGalley and lying about your author status is shady. And if you're wondering if I actually do this, yes, I'm running a big publishing anniversary giveaway. I bought pre-orders for myself and a lucky winner from my favorite authors to support them. I reached out to them asking if I could tag them. I wanted to hype them without being intrusive. So basically, you're probably aware, but an ARC is an advanced reader copy or advanced review copy, depending on who you ask. They are free copies of a book given out specifically to garner reviews, both before publication and shortly after, in order to, get some movement on the book, encourage people to read it. And while it is not a legal obligation for you to leave a review after receiving an ARC, because that would be against FTC guidelines and illegal, is it really the ethically correct thing to just ask for free ARCs without the intention of reviewing? I would argue no, that's not very ethical of you. You should have the intention to review when you are asking for ARCs. And so what I'm getting from this post is that authors shouldn't be asking for ARCs because authors aren't reviewing, which is in line with the vast majority of people I see talking about authors and reviews. Authors shouldn't do reviews. Authors shouldn't leave reviews. Authors don't leave reviews. So it's like, if authors shouldn't be leaving reviews, you can assume that that means authors also shouldn't be requesting ARCs, while the whole point of an ARC is to get a review. So it's like you're kind of guaranteeing that there's not going to be a review, even a 4-star review or a 3-star review with a lot of positive stuff in it, because, oh, well, authors are only supposed to leave 5-star reviews. So it's like, what is it? Either you're encouraging authors to get ARCs, but authors can't leave less than 5 stars. So it's like, does that count as a form of review manipulation, encouraging people to leave more positive of a review than they actually would naturally on their own? Are we supposed to be giving away free copies of books to people who aren't going to review? This is kind of why NetGalley has a review percentage. Do I still get approved for a bunch of books without having a perfect percentage? Yeah, right now I'm at like 48% or something. And I just got approved for another one. But it's like they have those metrics on the site. They see those metrics for a reason. So, I would assume most of the people approving for ARCs are looking at, does this person actually review? If they're a reviewer, I know that booksellers they seem to, at least according to Threads comments, get kind of auto-approved for a bunch of stuff. And I get this because, giving out the ARC is a financial burden on the author, especially if they're an indie author. Obviously, trad published, the publisher's putting that financial investment in. But for indie authors doing ARCs, it's like they have to pay for NetGalley. They have to pay for physical copies. Yeah, technically the ebook part's free, but they have to pay for software to format the ebook. They have to pay for services, if they're not paying for NetGalley, to send out ARCs to readers and have sign-up forms and all that stuff. It's like you're asking for someone to spend money on you with kind of like the tacit agreement that, like, yeah, no matter what my thoughts are, I'm going to be leaving a review because at the end of the day, the review, positive or negative, will help you in your book. But then you're doing it knowing, or at least doing it, and I'm assuming agreeing with the 99% of posts I see saying authors should never review. So like, that's kind of weird. The author did come back again and make another post, and I'm not sure what the BTTT is supposed to mean. All I can find is been there, done that. That might not be correct and be altering my understanding of this comment, but the author did come back and say, once more, I'm going to say it. If I had acted as entitled and rude to been there, done that authors on here when I started out publishing, as I keep seeing on Threads these days, I would have never learned to stop doing so many things that could have held me back. And I would have alienated the vets willing to help. But go on. Just because someone's experience doesn't affirm yours, just ignore their years of publishing experience and call them an asshole. So I'm assuming this is related to the deleted post. It's a little vague. If I had to guess, she's saying, I was giving you advice I've gotten from my experience, and instead of listening and trying to learn, you're shooting me down. So later, the author came back and made another post saying, some of you authors who are big mad about being told why arcing as an author is a bad idea aren't getting that you can simply purchase books or ask your library to get them. Last I saw today at a bookstore where I purchased a book from an author I admire, supporting authors by purchasing their work is always an option. And yes, you can always collab and ask for ARCs to help with that. As I said in that thread, if you actually read it, but that is not applying for ARCs on NetGalley. So it seems like her main issue is authors asking for arcs instead of doing kind of like reciprocal exchange. And this post was actually from before her post that blew up and got her apparently a bunch of haters, where she said, still really not loving the trend of authors having NetGalley accounts where they say they are just a reader, but then I go to their Goodreads and they're also an author who writes comps to mine, and they have 0 reviews in the past 5 years or ever. If you're a billionaire author, and I'm assuming they mean billionaire romance, not actual billionaire authors, I would be glad to do an exchange giveaway with you, but I will not be sending you an ARC unless I know you. It just looks really strange. So again, she's pointing out these people are asking for ARCs, but don't do reviews. And if they and you know, I know some people say if you're an author, you should have your author Goodreads and then an anonymous Goodreads for you to do reviews. You would assume that they would be linking that anonymous Goodreads to their NetGalley account and not using their author name if that's something that they're doing. She also made an additional post a little earlier saying, if you're an editor, pitching your business via poor NetGalley reviews about improvements needed is a choice, and it will absolutely get you struck from any ARC campaign I ever run. Which, like, and this is totally valid. I mean, that's not what NetGalley's for. The ARC should be nearly the final product. And really, I think that's something that the author should be able to pick up on based off the feeling of the reviews. If they're only getting negative reviews from readers telling them XYZ needs improvement, then like, yeah, they can figure out, oh, I probably need to do another round of editing, versus having someone come in and start trashing you to then give you a sales pitch is, yeah, no, that's questionable. I agree. People should not be doing that. That post that said that they DNF'd this author who said authors shouldn't be requesting ARCs had so many comments. There were like, there's at least a dozen comments of people being like, oh my God, yeah, what a bitch. Who does she think she is? She's so full of herself, blah, 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 blah. And I was just flabbergasted because it's like, you know, again, while I shared positive comments saying it doesn't matter if authors review, 99% of the time I see comments saying authors should never review. So I was just flabbergasted that there was also a bunch of people saying authors should be able to request ARCs. That's totally fine. I don't know. Wild. It just comes off as kind of review manipulation adjacent to me. Like if you tell authors they can't leave less than a 5-star review, but then you're purposely giving your ARC to authors, it kind of feels like you're fishing for 5-star reviews. Like you're trying to weigh the odds in your favor that, oh, I know how to guarantee no one will give my book a low star rating by only going after people who aren't allowed to give lower ratings. And does that actually count as review manipulation? No, I'm sure it doesn't. But to me in my head, I don't know. Personally, I don't care. I don't care. If I see an author not like a book, that's fine. And I will caveat that by saying, like, yeah, I would think it's weird if an author takes a book and says, here's what I would have done to make it better. It's like, yeah, that's kind of low-handed. Also, you didn't do it. So words are just talk. But, you know, I don't think it's an issue for them to give an honest review about relevant things, talking just about, you know, in my opinion, this didn't hit for me. Or I think the descriptions could have been a little more in depth, 3D, using more senses, something. Not saying I would have done XYZ with this character and given them blah, 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 blah. You know, I also don't think it's acceptable to insult people in your negative reviews. We're going to talk more about that in my next video about bullying. And what cracked me up is after I saw this thread, I called my mom to be like, oh my God, Mom, I just saw the wildest thing on Threads. And what cracked me up is that she was defending Elise Myers, because I was like, oh yeah, you remember that video I made a few weeks ago about Elise Myers? And she was like, I love her. She is so funny. I think it was totally fine because that's just who she is. She's autistic, Taylor. I was like, okay, not what we're talking about now. But she was leaning on the, well, you know, authors should probably just do the like a book exchange thing. Like that sounds like a good idea, which, you know, it could be a good idea. I personally think it would be hard. I just know that I'm kind of like a really picky vibes type reader. And with my anxiety, it's like sometimes certain things just set me off, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this book right now. Like in November, I was trying to read The Porcelain Menagerie, and then I was just so anxious I couldn't do it because there's a trigger warning, and then they send you an email about the trigger warning, and I was like, whoa, too much for me. And now I've restarted it, and it's really good. I'm like super into it. Anyways, what do you guys think? Do you think authors should be able to leave respectful, relevant reviews that aren't 5 stars? Or do you think they shouldn't do it, and that professionals never comment on anyone in their field ever? And I will say, there is definitely some nuance in there, given that in most other fields, they're providing a service to you. Therefore, it behooves them to be more honest. There's kind of like a correct way. There's like a definitive ending of solving a problem as part of your service. And reading is more about the personal experience, and it's very subjective. So that does color a little bit, but what does professionalism mean to you? Well, that is all for now. I will see you next time.